Hello, my persuasive speech today is watching The Wire to gain political science knowledge. Originally published in June of 1991, Homicide, A Year on the Killing Streets is David Simon's debut book. Homicide is a deep look into the year David Simon spent in the Baltimore Police Department Homicide Unit. A short year later, Homicide earned David Simon an Edgar Award in the Best Fact Crime category, a well-established honor that is until it was made into an HBO show titled The Wire. The Wire made its TV debut 11 years after Homicide on June 2002. In watching and mapping The Wire, taking a spatial turn in political science, its author, Andrea Simpson, gives us a brief overview of the 5 seasons of The Wire and how they each impact each other in our society. She writes, The Wire, a critically acclaimed series from David Simon, aired on HBO, is a 5-part series on the problems facing the city of Baltimore. The 5 seasons feature plots around crime and police bureaucracies, public schools, the demise of meaningful work through the Port of Baltimore, city politics, and the role of the media. Simon declares that the series was a form of political dissent. Andrea Simpson also teaches a college course under the first-year seminar on The Wire. Professor Simpson is just one of many across the United States who teach college-level classes on The Wire. The Wire has established itself as one of the best TV shows ever broadcast in America, writes Joseph Christian Schaub in The Wire, Big Brother is Still Watching You, and Bodymore Murderland. He also writes, The Wire's failure to attract a mainstream viewing audience was a result of its being far more real than most of the programs it was competing against in the era of reality TV. The Wire touches on every aspect of what constitutes as government work. The story of Baltimore can be translated to any city of America and its local politicians, its law enforcement, and citizens. The Wire exposes the vulnerabilities within not only a city, but the system that fuels it. I highly recommend The Wire as a cultural American experience. It has much to teach us on policing, the war on drugs, education, poverty, journalism, wiretapping, and the government official chumps in charge. When you are watching The Wire and its first season, you are first introduced to all of the players. You have McNulty. He's a homicide detective. He's willing to go over chain of command at the drop of a hat. He's always trying to sweet talk just about anyone. You also have Avon Barksdale from the Barksdale Drug Organization, and right now he's king of the streets. You also later on meet Omar Little. He's a highly skilled angel thug, and he robs all of the drug dealers. More of the players, you have Commissioner Burrell, who just wants dope on the table, dismissing the bigger case for small victories that will make him look good. There's Herc, there's Carver, and there's Prez, all detectives, and sometimes they take it upon themselves to bust minors without any proper authorization from their lieutenant. And, there's also the city of Baltimore. Joseph Christopher Schaub writes, The city of Baltimore is really the show's main character. Most West Baltimoreans would agree that The Wire got it right when it comes to the portrayal of West Baltimore, America. In Season 2, we are really introduced to human trafficking and the labor unions. Just right in the beginning, we are faced with a container of 13 dead Jane Does that are found. And there's an inexperienced Port Authority officer who is put on the case, and she's just pressured to have it closed as an accidental. And then you also have McNulty, who's out there being murder policed and who's discovering another dead body. And just to be petty, he is trying to he's trying to put the body towards the homicide unit to just spite the colonel that's there. And then you have the guys from the union. You have Sabatka's men. They're getting less and less hours. And so Sabatka turns to crime. He's smuggling drugs. He's doing anything in shipping containers, all to the big distributors. And you have another major who starts investigating Sabatka just to spite him over a very petty thing. In season 3, we are really focused on local politics and the drug organizations running the streets. Also, things that are going on within the wiretap and the homicide unit. To start off, we have Councilman Carcetti. He starts to put pressure on Burrell over the city's high crime rates, all to get him fired. And he tries to do the same thing with the mayor, because he's just trying to put pressure on them as he's also planning to run for mayor. There's Major Colvin. He creates a drug tolerance zone, later nicknamed Amsterdam. And when the mayor finds out, he's reluctant to shut it down since it has reduced crime. And you still have the big players on the street. You have Marlo Stanfield, who's a new player, and he's a young kid who wants to be the new king. You also have people like Stringer Bell, who are trying to control the drug trade by creating a drug dealers co-op. And you have Marlo, a young kid with absolutely no rules, doesn't want to participate in a co-op, and who ends up starting a drug war. You have all the wiretaps when the Stanfield organization, they're using burner phones, and that creates the homicide unit to be able to supply them these pre-wiretapped phones. And these are all discussions that you could have while watching this, and it would be a lot more better to realize that everybody still should be inclined to have that privacy and what those things mean, even to big drug dealers. When we get to season 4, we're really looking at the local students, all of the politics, what's going on with the drug organization and the homicide unit. You get to see all of the students who get groomed by money from the drug organizations, all low-income communities. And they all have bad home lives, and these big players, they can offer them protection. Then you have the mayor race. It's starting, and all candidates are blaming each other for any problems going on in the city. You get to see the drug organizations and how they start recruiting kids. And then you have the homicide unit, where a detective, a novice homicide detective, is put on a case just to stall an investigation until after the elections. When we get to season 5, we're really focused on the Baltimore Sun paper reporters, politics, homicide, and the Stanfield organization. There's a reporter from the Baltimore Sun who becomes very frustrated when he cannot get a proper quote for the paper, so he just decides to create one. The story was never verified due to time restraint. The reporter continues to use fake stories to get ahead in his career or to possibly win awards for his stories. There's the Stanfield investigation, the investigation is dropped due to funding cuts. And when Stanfield finds this out, he just issues more crime throughout the city and to take over the whole entire operation. Major Carcetti has made citywide cuts, but he is again now running for senator. Carcetti is told about major illegal crimes happening, but he decides to cover it up all for his campaign. Then you have McNulty, who is creating things around the city to cause a stir, to make all of these cuts in some way disappear, and he can keep following his investigations that were dropped. The players are not only the drug dealers running the streets. The players are all the elected city officials, the police, the next generation of young kids ready to take over the streets, and the reporters of Baltimore. There's so much to learn from this well-thought-out show. It encapsulates everything we know to be broken with a system of politics that continues to fail its citizens. The Wire exposes all of us in one way or another. It exposes our communities, our cities, our pride, and our egos. I highly encourage The Wire as a way to gain political science knowledge, to gain perspective on stories that we may not see every day, but they are out there. These are the stories you will see along with plenty more when watching The Wire. All these points may seem purely as an overview of each season, but it's what each season touches on that makes up the bigger picture. The picture of big politics, of the big streets, the big police work, the big players that make up all of this, what we know to be the American dream. Thank you so much.